Hey, this is going to be a quick video. I'll try to do it fairly quick on changing guitar strings. So first thing, I have a nice area that I work in. This is an area that I use all the time for changing strings, and also we use it for projects, so my stuff can be picked up pretty quick. A couple things I have here. You actually saw my box. I think you can see it if I pull it right there. I keep an open box here where I keep strings, and I like the box because, you know, I can put it in here safely and know they're not going to fall out. I've got dogs, so dogs are no good. There are some other tools. I've got a bunch of tools up here at the other end of the table, but specific for changing guitar strings. Obviously you're going to need a set of strings. I'm wanting to, these are phosphor bronze. I've got this set I've had for quite a while. I'm going to use it. This is not my primary guitar. You need something to cut the strings. I use this jeweler snip. That's pretty helpful. You obviously need a tuner. I keep a El Cheapo tuner here when I tune. And you can either hand wind or you can have a string winder. I use this screwdriver with this attachment that I was able to get from eBay, from Amazon. It's perfect for changing strings. You do have to be careful that you have the right direction, but you'll see me use that. Another tool real quick, I hope you can see this, but this has a little slot right here, and if you can see, that little slot is to assist with getting the bridge pins out. You can pop them out. So it is good to have that because sometimes those will stick. So anyway, big picture, the other thing I always have handy is a rag, because it's an opportunity once I get strings off to wipe down places that I don't normally have access to. So just getting started. Usually I'll make sure I got the right direction. Well, first off, I got a capo on here, so I'm going to take my capo off. Set it over here out of the way. There's nothing else on here that's of worry. I always, so right turn is loosened, and there we go. So hopefully you can see that. Once you get that in there, it's just that quick. And on the guitar, the way that I typically do it, I do them all at one time. So I'm going to get them all loose. Yep. And I always like to check the direction. And you see how quick this is to loosen. And all this is a, I don't know, it's a $15, maybe a $20 electric screwdriver. This piece is rubber. Well, it's not rubber, but it's kind of a, I'll call it a soft plastic, so it's not going to mar the finish on your guitar. Once I have those loose, the other thing I didn't show you, I'm a little persnickety. I use a partially rolled up towel, and I actually have two different sizes. And yes, I still use the towels periodically for jobs up here, but the bottom line is I do like to put a towel because it gives me better control of the instrument. But once I have these, let me just make sure you can see, yes, you can see those bridge pins, and I'm just going to take that little slot, and sometimes you pop them out, but sometimes you can't, and that's where this little tool comes in handy, because you just slip it in. I don't pay any attention to which string I'm using which pin on, so I usually just put the pins over here onto the side all in a row, and sometimes they do pop out like that. And you know, I mean, I'm pretty careful with my instruments, but you know, I suppose if this was some vintage, you know, guitar that I didn't want to mess with, I might be a little more careful taking them off. If you loosen them up enough, by this time you're going to have the ability to get all the strings together, which is what I do. I got all the strings, and I'll usually start kind of coiling them up here, so that I can put them in my recycle bin. And so something like that, and then each one's got to be unwound. And I can do a guitar. I'm talking now, probably talking too much, but I can do a guitar in, oh, I don't know, 15 minutes, you know, pretty comfortably. You know, not for final tuning, but I do want to show you a couple tricks. Once I get all the strings off like that, I can coil them up. to be sure they're not going to spring. I do not like the idea of having loose strings with my doggies around. So I got them in there now. That's good. All right, now that I've got the strings off, I spend a little bit of time wiping everything down, and actually I wiped down beforehand, but now I'll go through. I also kind of check the frets, and you know, this guitar, I've dressed these frets once. It probably needs another dressing, at least up here in the first 5 frets. This is not my main guitar. If you have any hardware, I already checked this, but if you have hardware such as, you may be able to see it. I mean, I've got various screws and whatnot. You might check those. This is a good time to do those. Be careful. On many guitars, these grommets, they look like they're nuts, and you can put a wrench on them, but they're not. So don't tighten these up on the top. These grommets, they're not intended to tighten. Once I get all that done, I got to find my strings. And I'm going to open the strings, and I'm going to put one on, and then I'll go through a couple other things. Let's see, I may be able to restart this. So this is a standard. This is a Martin Marquis set. It is phosphor bronze. I'm not that familiar with them, but I'll start putting them on. I'm dimming it, and I do want to show you this. I'm going to get a chair. So I've got my E string, and I hope you can see the bridge down here. I'm going to put the ball end down in there, and I'm going to follow it with, on this guitar, you know, I've got slotted pins. Some guitars do not have slotted pins. If you don't have slotted pins, they can go in almost any way unless you see where. This one has a slotted pin. So I'm going to push that string pretty far down in there, and then I'm going to put that slotted pin right there, and then I'm going to pull that string back up, kind of lock it in place. Once I'm up here, this is the way I like to do it, and there's 100 different ways. Let me show you one other trick. You may or may not have ever broken, especially an E string on a guitar when you change strings, and that's usually due to friction in the nut. There is no real slot per se on most acoustic guitars. There's a very small slot, but there is a slot up here. If you take a pencil and you run it in that slot, in fact, while I've got the pencil in my hand, I'm going to do it in all of the slots. And you take a pencil, the graphite that's in the pencil lead actually kind of lubricates the string as it slides in there, as it goes through the nut. Sometimes you can get, if you have a guitar nut that has too much friction, the string, you'll sit there and you'll be trying to take it a little sharp and nothing's happening, and all of a sudden, boop, it'll jump. And that can be due to friction in the nut. So anyway, that's just a thought. The next thing I do, and this is a little hard to see, I get the pole. I'm going to work on the high E string, but I get the hole to where it's perpendicular here. You know, it's perpendicular. It's actually parallel to the nut. So the hole through my tuning peg is parallel to the nut. So I've got a hole on this side, and I'm actually going to go in from this side. Seems backwards, but I'm going to go in here. First off, before I do that, the right amount of wrap can be determined by about that much. The distance between this peg and this peg. For this string, it's this peg and this peg, and when you get up to this string, you got to just estimate. That's about the right amount of wrap. So if I do this, this is where I want to put the string through the hole. So I got my hand there. This is how I do it. I've got my left hand holding that string at that spot. I'll bring it right up to it, and you can see that's actually a little much. You can do it 2 ways. You can do it that way. Another way is to get like a hand. I'm going to go with the hand this time. So I've got it to where I'm on the 12th fret, and I'm pulling this string until I've got one full hand there, and I'm coming in from the back side. Once I get it here, I'm going to flop that dude over to the other side, and I'll show you on one more string, and then I'm going to get this thing. So what I've done is I've got this loose end is right at this moment is going below, it's going above the, this part is going below this part of the string that's going back to the bridge. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm holding up the part that goes back to the nut. This part is lower, and you're going to see when I go back And I hold it here because I'm used to doing a mandolin. You have to hold some tension on the string, but you want to hold some tension and you want this to wind from the bottom. I'm going to reverse my thing, and now I'm going to start to wind. And I'm going to wind that dude right up on there. And what I've done is I've got one wrap that's above this exit, and then all the other wraps are below. So it kind of locks it in, and it makes it so so the string doesn't slip as much. It's still slip a little bit. Now as you're tightening, you sometimes find these pins are going to loosen. So I'm just going to get a little bit of tight tension on here, and I'm going to go ahead and put on a second string, and then I'm going to cut this off, and I'll come back for additional information that is going to be helpful for you. So here's the B string. Let's do the same thing. I already put the graphite in there, sliding way, not way down, but past where it's going to lock. And I slip the groove in. Some people actually at this point will put all the strings in. I just, that to me is busy. So I come up here, same thing. I want this, and usually I'm more careful to stop in the right spot so I don't have to readjust it. But I've got this, the hole through the tuner peg parallel to the nut. I'm going to get it so it's all four strings at the 5th fret. It's not tight, but it's it's there. Once I'm there, I'm going to flop it over. See how I did it? I flopped it back over the post. So now it's going over the top, and I'll pull this guy so it kind of stands up, and then I'll start to wind, and it's great having this on a screwdriver because it goes about that fast, and it really is easy to control once you get used to it. But you want when you wind a string, you want it to wind towards the bottom. It starts and it winds towards the bottom. That's how you want it. And sometimes they pop out. So, so I think I'm going to stop there for the moment. I'm going to finish restringing. I'll get the rest of the strings on, and then there's a few tricks I want to show you to finish up.